Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Can everybody hear me, man? Can everybody hear me? Drop some threes in the chat. If you can hear my voice, please drop some threes in the chat. You can hear my voice. I want to make sure we all good before I just start going. Let's see where we at. Got you, got you. First and foremost, I want to say good evening to everybody. Welcome, right? Welcome to the Profit Society Weekly Outlook Call. And before we even get started, I want you guys to get your pen, get your paper, send this link out to everybody, right? I want you guys to send this link out to everybody, all your Telegram groups, all your Facebook groups, even some Facebook trading groups, send it to them. Send this link to everybody you know, because the Profit Society is about to take over the entire industry. So what I want y'all to do, let's start with the threes. Let's start with the threes. Let's drop some sevens in the chat if you're ready to pay yourself and not play yourself, right? If you're ready to win and not pretend, I want y'all to drop some sevens in the chat, man. If you're excited to get to those ends this week, if you're excited to have a super profitable week, drop some sevens in the chat, man. Super excited just to have everybody on here. We got my guys with me as usual, right? As usual. We about to get on here, get this call kicked off. So with that said, guys, again, make sure you're ready. Make sure you locked and loaded to go ahead and take this thing off this week. We're super excited. Hope you all had a phenomenal weekend. Hope y'all was able to study, back test, spend some time with some family. Just remember what it is that you're doing this thing for. And we're going to sit here and take this thing off to the moon, all right? So with that said, I don't want to waste too much time, right? I don't want to waste too much time. I know we're going to run this thing a little bit different this time. So with that said, continue to send those links out, guys. We got 86 on the call watching live right now. All right, let's get this thing up. Let's get this thing up to about 100. I don't even think I can bring Abel on until we bring it up to 100, man. Let's go ahead and blast this link out, family. Blast this link out. I'm going to go ahead and send it one more time. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Yes, sir. So I'm sending the link out. Let's see who's sending that link out, family. Let's get this call to 100. We had 90. We had 90. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Keep dropping them sevens, man. If you're ready to win and not pretend. Y'all know what we came here to do, family. Y'all know what we came here to do. About to have a crazy week in the markets. I feel it. I don't know if y'all can feel it. I can feel it, though. All right? We almost there. Come on. Keep sending that link out, man. Keep sending that link out. So, look, what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and unmute my brothers. We're going to run this call a little bit different than we have in the past. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and bring the guys on with me, make sure they can hear as well. And then we'll go ahead and kick this thing off, look at some pairs, and give you guys the plays for the week. All right? So where my guys at, man? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, Abel, they can't hear you on the YouTube. I don't know why.
Okay, there we go. You should be able to hear me now, right? Can you guys hear me now? Let me know if you guys can hear me now, right? Because I was just going in, right? But we're going to bring it right back, right? I know you guys can hear me now. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So like I was saying, family, welcome, welcome, welcome to tonight's call. You know, our whole intention, guys, with this weekly call is to give you guys, you know, a lot of education, right? A lot of knowledge, a lot of information, right? And also give you guys, you know, some tools, some tricks, right? Some tips that can just get you guys better, right? That can help you guys take your trading journey up to the next level, right? Because I know for me, guys, you know, it takes a little while, guys, to really get this thing down packed. You know, one thing that you guys can truly get from us and you guys can expect from us is transparency, right? Is honesty, right? We're not going to come on here and try to sell a dream, right? We're not going to come on here and tell you, you know, that you're going to be able to come in and see, you know, $1 million overnight, right? But what we are going to do is show you that it's possible, right? And we're also going to make sure that you guys are educated enough so that it does eventually actually happen, right? And we know that it's possible because, again, you're literally listening to people on this call, guys, that have literally been able to do this now for a while, right? For years and years and years. And we've all been able to see success doing this, right? So if we can do it, all we need to do is literally just duplicate our system, our process, our steps, give it to you guys, and then just help you guys gain that experience overall, right? Does that make sense, family? Are you guys excited for that? Drop some threes in the chat if you guys are excited for that, right? Because, again, we're going to bring you guys massive value. And with today's call, right, we're actually going to do it a little bit differently than we've done our Sunday calls in the past, right, where we typically go one person back to back. No, right, we're actually going to do it more roundtable style, right, where we're all going to come on here. We're going to talk about the news together, right? We're going to talk about certain ideas, certain pairs, you know, together, right? Especially if we have, you know, either ideas that can either benefit each other, right? That can just give us a lot more confidence, or even if we are, you know, have some type of conflicting ideas, right? You know, because I'm very comfortable, guys, with having these type of discussions and having these type of conversations with other people that I truly trust in this space, right? Because, again, then we're able to come up with the absolute best trade idea, the absolute highest probability trade idea by us simply collaborating, putting our minds together, and coming up with the best of the best, guys, right? So, again, we have a lot planned for you guys today, and we're going to go ahead and really just break down a lot of things. But I actually want to go ahead and get started with taking a look at news, right? You guys know I'm very big on news. That's my baby, right? I truly consider myself more of a sentiment-based trader more than anything now, right? So that question I get all the time, hey, what kind of trader do you, what kind of trader are you, right? I trade based off sentiment now, right? Like, that's really the main deciding thing that really makes my decision making easier, right? Is what is the sentiment in the markets, right? And then we go ahead and we react based off the sentiment as a whole. All right, so that's what we're gonna do, right? Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the calendar, guys. See what we do got to worry about going up into this week, so that we are prepared for that, right? So going into Monday, we really don't have nothing too crazy on Monday, but we do have 2 bank holidays with the Bank of Canada and the Bank of Japan. As usual, guys, you know, if you are trading those specific currencies, then you have to be mindful that the banks are closed, right? Whenever the banks are closed, right, you're probably not going to see as much volume in the markets, right? Because these banks are providing the most liquidity to these markets. But if the banks are closed, then there's not going to be as much liquidity, so the markets might not move as smoothly, or something that you're used to, we could say, right? So overall, we got to just be aware of that, right? There are 2 bank holidays on Monday that we have to be aware of, okay? Now, going into Tuesday, guys, we do have some pound news with average earnings index getting released. You know, we have the claimant count change. I actually just found out what this was because I never actually heard of this name before, the claimant count change. But all they did is they pretty much just rebanded their employment, right? And this is going to tell us pretty much what's happening over there in the UK in terms of employment change, right? Because it says right here, the claimant count change measures the change in the number of unemployed people in the UK, okay? So that's what it's doing, right? It's pretty much, yeah, I mean, it's telling us exactly how many people are, if there's more people filing for unemployment, or if we're seeing a decrease in that number, right? Now, very simple. How can we interpret this type of data and correlate it to the markets? Right, well, if we are actually seeing, guys, right, a higher number for unemployment, is that good or is that negative, quote unquote, for the economy, right? Let's talk about it in terms of the economy, right? Negative unemployment data, right? If we see unemployment increasing, or are we seeing an increase in the amount of people that are actually just filed for unemployment, is that good or bad, right? Is that good or bad, guys? Go ahead and answer that in the chat. Let me know in the chat what you guys think, right? Is that good or bad, right? Is that good or bad? Let's see. All right, make sure you guys click the like button. Definitely go ahead and smash the like button, family. We got 120 plus on this call. We only got about 40 likes, right? So let's definitely go ahead and get those likes up if you guys don't mind. those likes actually do help us out tremendously with getting this content spread out to a lot more broader audience. So, shout out to every single one of you guys that do help us out with that, right? We're really doing this for y'all, right? You support us, we're going to support you guys with some value for sure. All right, so the question that I asked here, guys, right? If we see an increase in the number of people that are filing for unemployment, then yeah, that is typically looked at as a bad thing, right? That is usually looked at as negative for an economy overall, right? Because when there's less people that are now employed, that means less spending can traditionally happen. Now, this brings in the point, guys, that I also wanted to bring up to you guys as well, right? The next question that I have, because of the current environment that we're in right now, right? I'm talking about high inflation, central banks being hawkish, right? Because of the current environment that we're in. Now, here's the second question. Is this data actually going to be interpreted as good or bad, right? I know I asked you guys what the data traditionally will come out as, right? Traditionally, that's bad for the economy, right? If it's bad for the economy, we'll see certain assets start to decrease, right? And we'll see, probably the pound gain strength because of that. But we're not in normal market conditions today, family, right? We are not in normal market conditions, right? Normal market conditions is when inflation is extremely low, right? Normal market conditions is when, interest rates are also very low, right? Not right now where these central banks are continuously expect to raise rates, right? That's not normal market conditions. And I bring this up because it's very important to understand. Last week on Friday, right, we also had, non-farm payrolls for the U.S., right? And based off the data, right, I'll actually show you guys because this is something I actually spoke to a few people over the weekend about this yesterday, right, on a call that I did, right? Because we were just pretty much going over, what actually happened, right? What actually happened last week. And I was speaking about how I ended up taking a few losses last week, guys, right? And I was explaining to everybody exactly why those losses actually happened, right? So let's actually take a look at this, and it's going to correlate, guys, with what I'm talking about right now with, that release for the pound, right? But if we look at this, we had non-farm payroll, right, that actually came out higher, okay? Now, non-farm payroll, for those of you guys that do not know exactly what it measures, and guys, all these news releases that we talk about, every single one is going to tell you exactly what they're for, right? But non-farm measures the change in the number of people employed during the previous month, right? So we actually seen a projection. Their prediction was 250,000 new people employed. We actually came out higher, right? So again, traditionally, in normal market conditions, that is positive news, right? That is typically going to bring strength to the indice market, right? Your NASs, your US 30s, your SPX 500s, right? It's going to bring strength to your cryptocurrencies, right? It's going to bring strength to your riskier, quote-unquote, riskier assets. But we didn't see that actually happen. And this is where I actually had to start to really think about how we're interpreting this data, right? How sentiment is being looked at, right? And this is where literally yesterday, right, I was able to really come to an idea as to why the market actually continued to drop, right? Because I ended up taking some losses on NAS trying to catch the rebound off of this positive data. But what I truly forgot was that, again, we're not in normal market conditions, right? So with this number actually going up higher, and this is the way that I should have looked at it, right? With this number increasing, right, that wasn't going to be positive for the actual economy, even though in traditional market conditions it would be. But right now, with high inflation and the whole goal is to try to get inflation under control, this is looked at as bad, right? So it's like the inverse just because of the current market conditions that we're in right now. Because what we want to see is we do want to see less people get employed, right? We do want to see a higher unemployment rate. As crazy and as sad as that sounds, right? Because obviously that means people are losing their jobs. But if the main goal for the Fed is to get inflation under control, right, then yeah, they want to see this number actually decrease, right? So that actually makes sense, guys, as to why, last week when the data actually came out, we seen the indices, they ended up just continuing to drop crazy. Like there was no stop at all, right? News came out and this thing just collapsed. And it's because, again, that data was interpreted as bad for the economy because it's probably going to keep inflation high. Okay? I hope this is making sense, guys. And especially if you're newer, right? If you're newer to these calls, right, you're probably really not going to understand any of this, but I promise you, as long as you continue to stay here, this is what's really going to be the game changer for you in your trading career, right? Because when you really understand how the data works, guys, and how to interpret it, it just makes trading so much easier, right? So this is something that, again, I know I pretty much, when I did my back testing yesterday over the weekend, I realized where I went wrong, right? I interpreted the news based off what I thought was normal market conditions, but we're not in normal market conditions. We're just not, right? So I should have adjusted to that. I should have realized that, man, this is actually going to be looked at as negative, because now that means more people have money, more spending going to occur. That's not going to help fight inflation, right? So it's things like that again is very important, guys, for us to really start to understand from a fundamental perspective and even from a sentimental perspective. How is the overall market really reacting to that news? We can clearly see that the market did not like that news, right? The fact that we had more people employed compared to the previous month, the market didn't like that. And it's because, again, in my opinion, I'm thinking it's because now they're also trying to correlate that with how it's going to affect inflation, guys, right? So again, drop some sevens in the chat if that is making any type of sense, right? Because that is some absolute important information to understand, right? But that also brings us back to now what we're talking about right now, right? With the climate count change, right? Because again, it's similar concepts, right, across the board, right, with central banks and how their employment data is coming out, right? So if this one actually ends up coming out, right now, what is the forecast? Right, it says forecast right there, but let's see. The forecast, right, for that is for 4.2 thousand, right, an increase of 4.2K, right, which is going to be lower than the previous month. Now, if we actually come out higher, again, we have to think about how we just did with the news, right, with the Fed, right? So if we come out higher, right, and we actually start to notice, right, more people employed, then we have to understand that the market itself might actually look at as negative reaction, right? We might see a negative reaction because of that. Because again, the whole main goal for these central banks, and this is something that they've made clear, I mean, for months now, is that they are focused on fighting inflation, right? Again, an increase in jobs numbers, an increase in employment is not going to help fight inflation, right? That's only going to keep inflation high as it is. So being able to understand these things, again, is going to be very crucial. So that's the whole point of why I talked about, what happened last week and bringing it into today, because it's going to be a very similar thing that we can look at here, right? Especially for all you guys that love trading pound pairs, right? I know we have a GBPJPY fans in the building, right? If you guys like trading pound yen, let me know in the chat, right? Go ahead and let me know in the chat. Drop a 1 in the chat if you like trading pound yen, right? Because I know that's one of my go-to pairs for sure, right? So that's going to be very interesting, guys. Now let's go ahead and just finish out this calendar so we can go ahead and really start the discussion, start the conversations amongst, the markets overall, right? So on Wednesday, we do have GDP as well, guys, for the pound, right? Again, this is a tier 1 news release, right? It's a tier 1 news event. So this can absolutely shake the markets, and this is also going to help. It's going to help a lot in terms of understanding for what the pound can do, right? Because GBP, guys, it pretty much just measures if your economy over there in the UK, has it expanded or has it contracted, right? Expansion or contraction, right? Obviously, right now, we should be assuming that GDP is going to continue to contract, right? We should assume that we should expect a contraction just because, again, all of the tightening that's been happening, right? Again, these central banks are raising interest rates, right? A side effect of interest rates going higher is less spending that starts to happen. Less spending happening means that the economy is starting to contract, right? So all these things, guys, tie into each other, right? But yeah, that's going to be very important. We do have some manufacturing production, right? We have PPI at 8:30 for the US dollar, which again is very important, right? And then we also have FOMC meeting minutes, right? The FOMC meeting minutes, guys, is probably going to be very important because this gives us an insight as to what the Fed is actually doing, like what their plans are, right? If you really want to understand sentiment, then you got to really interpret what this means, right? What these meeting minutes are saying, right? Because again, it does give us an insight as to what the Fed is truly thinking, okay? And then going into Thursday, we do have one of the biggest news events of the week, and that is going to be CPI, right? So we do have German CPI for the euro, but we have core and regular CPI, guys, over here on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. This is going to be the one event, guys, that everybody is going to be paying attention to. Why? Because CPI is going to tell us if inflation is continuing to contract, or if inflation is still going to remain high as it is. Because if it is, then again, we should know exactly how to respond to these things from a sentiment perspective, right? So CPI is going to be very interesting to see. They're forecasting right now to actually see it continue to tick lower, which is obviously good. But we'll see what happens with that, right? I don't even want to make no crazy predictions myself on this because I really don't know, right? I'm not sure if this is going to come out higher. I'm not sure if it's going to come out lower. I really don't know, right? Because right now we're seeing a lot of mixed signals across the board, guys, with a lot of these news events and a lot of these news releases, right? So, but yeah, I'm not going to try to predict on what is going to happen. We're just going to let the market play out, and then, we'll react after the fact. Right now, we do have the initial jobless claims as well, followed by the crude oil inventories at 11. And then to finish out the week, guys, we do have core retail sales and retail sales as well on Friday for the U.S. Man, that was a mouthful, right? But that is our news event for the week, guys, right? That is our news for the week. Make sure you guys are aware of it. Make sure you guys are up to par with it because it is very, very important. Now, for anybody, or not for anybody, but for you guys in the chat, right? My team, right? Skags, bro, what are you thinking about news, bro? What is your thoughts about news going into this week, bro? Because I know I definitely like to always get your opinion, right, as to what you think the market can do. And yeah, if Kyle and Ray, if you guys also want to contribute as well as to what your thoughts could be in terms of data for the week, then yeah, by all means, go ahead and contribute as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, guys, CPI is going to be, my main focus. To be honest, I did not realize that we also had PPI the day before. So to be honest, that could be a little bit of a leading indicator for CPI, to be honest. That's just the production side of things. Obviously, if stuff is going to cost more to produce, then eventually that will translate over into, consumer price increases as well. So it'll be interesting to see how both those numbers come out. I do think we will continue with this dollar strength into those results. I do think most traders are going to expect it to remain high. I mean, even if it does come down, it is my belief that anything above 8% will probably be seen as bearish indices, bullish dollar. Anything below 8% probably will be seen the other way, where we'll get a little bit more optimism out of the markets. So, bullish indices, bearish dollar. But yeah, I'm rooting for above 8%. I would like to see it. I would like to see it remain high. That's in my best interest, according to the way that I want to trade the markets this week. But like you said, bro, we don't really know. It's just our job to look at the data when it comes out, interpret that, and then find the most logical next move to take advantage of. So regardless of how it comes out, guys, you guys know we will adjust, we will adapt, and we'll play the markets, in a logical way.
100%.
Great. I mean, I agree with Skaggs. I do kind of have some more specifics I probably will get into, but at the end of the day, if you're just predicting like the news just based off of, especially just Sunday, we want to, as traders, have the most data as possible, as humanly possible. You want to have as much data before you even enter the market and make your bias, make your prediction. So I personally will be waiting for more data to print, now until London session. Usually what I like to do is I like to see what London prints. And, let's say London was somewhat of a bullish day for the dollar and there's more imbalances that we need to reach up to. I most likely will just be playing a London continuation into that imbalance or into that area that the market needs to fill. Now, let's say the London reaction was somewhat of a mitigation or somewhat of the market giving us a rejection, then I would, most likely be playing the continuation of that rejection. So, I don't know if I could share my screen here, but just like kind of like a general consensus that I have for the dollar, because obviously the dollar is kind of something that, it has majority of the news for the entire week. So I am pretty much leaning towards more volatility towards the dollar. I am just going to hijack the screen here for a second. My bad, Abel. But, pretty much, this is the only dollar bearish scenario that I could really see play out. Maybe something of us coming up to mitigate out of this 4-hour candle. That would be, something that I could see happen. Let's say dollar were to come up and, reject off of something like this, then yeah, if we reject off of this and we can start seeking these inefficiencies lower here, and we can come out to take these equal lows, especially since the last CPI news was bullish dollar, then maybe this time they want to come out with something different. Then this could be a possibility, especially if we go down to a 1 hour, we see a candle right here, but this candle is kind of getting close. It's kind of looking like it's going to touch during London. So, this is my kind of like 2 scenario thing that we have here. If London gives us a rejection here and does like a break of structure, then I would wait for New York to retest and then give us something like that. Now, if that doesn't happen, then probably on Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday, we can probably come up to here. And then I'll wait to see what London does. If we get like a break of structure or something like that, then yeah, I would definitely take the dollar to the downside. Now, let's say Wednesday comes and we're just, I always like to have 2 possible scenarios of the market, because you never want to be married to one specific bias. If you're married, completely to the bearish side for the dollar, and you're just buying EU, buying GU with no stop loss, no kind of ability to react, you got to be able to react to the market. If the market isn't giving what you had initially predicted to happen, you got to learn how to react and adjust, right? Sometimes as traders, you got to adjust and go in the opposite direction. So, just me being honest, if the market breaks this level right here, this level right here at the end of the day, let's say the market does break it, then I would be looking towards the upside. So that's just something that I'm looking at. Again, this is kind of like the last line of defense. I like to say it's a more of a breaker bounce level. I was going over this on my on the last time I was on the call. I believe it was like NFP. I was talking about breaker bounce levels, right? So this region right here is a breaker bounce level. It's either the market bounces from this level, and if it does bounce, then we'll be getting a bearish, kind of more of a bearish start to the week. But if it does break this high right here, this candle to be more specific, if it breaks this right here, then I would just continue with the bullish scenario, and pretty much more so something like this, right? It would break. So once it breaks out of this candle, wait for somewhat of a retest to the same area that we would have sold at, and we can consider this a flip zone to take us back and clear these highs. I wouldn't be looking for sells once we break this area though. But yeah, that's pretty much my 2-sided scenario. It just depends on what London gives us and what data we get leading into midweek. So leading into midweek, if we're still chilling around here, consolidating around this box, then yeah, the sells are good to go. But if we just break, then yeah, take it the other direction. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for the dollar.
Yeah, no, I like that though. I like that play. I was looking at it very similarly as well. Let me actually go ahead and show you what I was looking at, because I have a similar play. I like how you gave the pretty much the 2 scenarios that could happen, right? Because I was looking at it a very similar way. For me, guys, the one thing about the dollar itself, right? If you could look at again, it's very similar markings, right? Where I think we could really start to see the market, guys, really sell off from this potential area right here. But what I'm really anticipating now, right, is that we actually come down to around this 111.5 level, 111.6. And I think that area could really give us a nice opportunity to potentially get back into this bullish trend here, Right now, obviously, depending on what happens for CPI, things could be different. But that's what I'll be looking for leading into this week, right? I do like the potential sell, or looking for not even just the sell, but looking for the sell off around these areas over here. But I'll be more so preparing for the buy, right? I think I like the buy more than anything, the long term buy for sure off that 111.6, 111.7 level. And this is me just looking at it from the data perspective. The reaction that we got again last week really did just ended up sending the dollar very bullish, right? Pretty much got us back into that original trend that we've been in for the past year and a half, 2 years, right? So that's why I think now we're going to be, in my opinion, be leaning towards back towards that upside for sure. But we do have similar biases, similar outlooks here. So I like that. I do think, at the end of the week, I think we're going to end up bullish, though, me personally. Right, because that does look damaging.
Yeah.
Same here. And one thing I do want to just point out, Abel, big shout out to you just for the way you actually started the call, discussing sentiment. And the reason why, that's even been able to help me tremendously, because like you said, we are in a different time of the markets currently. And what everybody on the call needs to realize is just because you may receive some positive data, that doesn't mean we've, outdone the 12 months of negative data. So it's almost like, having 100 bad trades and you think one trade is going to bring your balance back negative or something like that. And that's where you get those short-term, moves in the market, or those retracement type moves in the market, or as Skaggs would call them, shock numbers, where the market just reacts to the fundamentals. But the sentiment being the overall global consciousness of how people feel about the market at the current time. And, us realizing that the charts are literally just a visible representation of buyers and sellers all over the world. That is the reason why it is so important. And, you did an excellent job breaking that down. I did just want to point that out, bro. You just saying that, it even gave me a lot of clarity just now as well. That sentiment is super, super key. And again, that's why, I am bullish on the dollar as well. Even with that zone that you have marked up, Kyle, I could see it, causing a little interference, but just looking at the buy to sell candle itself, it doesn't look like one of those candles that's going to really create, any lower low opportunities. So, you looking for those continuation moves, I feel like is definitely going to be, beneficial. Obviously, you got some liquidity resting to the left. However, I've been getting crushed trying to catch reversals. And, I'm of the mindset of just going with the flow, going with the overall momentum at this current time in the markets. But let me actually go ahead and real quick. I don't know if any of you guys wanted to show or keep going or keep marking up, but I do want to just show my screen real quick as well.
Go ahead, bro.
Say less. Going back and forth between all these different screens. For just a sec. So ultimately, I'll take a look at NAS as well real quick. They got me trading NAS, y'all. Can't believe it. They got me trading NAS. But just with that, obviously last week, we were actually looking at this and it just took off, right? I think Skaggs actually was looking at the buy opportunities and, it literally took off like while we were on the call as well. And now that the market is trending back down, the question you really got to ask yourself, because when the market is in a position like this, it's always like, we're so conditioned to try to catch, higher low points and then swing them higher. A lot of times it's hard to just see the market making new lows, right? Because, everybody's kind of conditioned to look at reversals, which is fine. Every trade you take is a reversal, whether it's on the minute or, whatever the time frame may be. To some degree, every trade is somewhat of a reversal. Even if you catch like a small continuation trade, that continuation is a reversal on a smaller time frame. So I get why everybody wants to trade those, but even here, one thing I like to look at is just the quality of the lows as well. I'm more of a technical guy. I'm not, I study fundamentals a lot, but me just looking at the quality of the lows as well in collaboration with the fundamentals, I do see how this low can cause, again, some hesitation in the markets. But just understanding who has more power, in my current opinion right now, I'd have to go with the sell side, just understanding large areas of imbalance that could potentially be filled. So I do see this possibly causing some short-term bearishness, may get like a midweek reversal possibly for some more sales or whatever the case may be. This could happen. It doesn't even have to be midweek. The reason why I do say that is because if we are going bullish, I don't see it being drastically bullish. So it would probably take a little longer than it actually fell with, because obviously we fell in a matter of, probably a day or so, right? I feel like the retracement, if we are bearish, should take a little longer than the actual market dropped with. So, if it's dropped in, I'll give you guys an exact time span. Let's just say 2 days. Well, at 12 bars, let me just go by the bars, about 13 hours from this last impulsive move. I would expect a retracement that's probably take at least 2-3 times that time, especially if we're going to continue bearish. This low is somewhat suspect to me. Although we did pop up, we slightly came back down to test this sell to buy candle. And essentially that's what created this buy opportunity right here. But me just looking at the overall, again, the sentiment as well. Because like you said, bro, like if we were just looking at this any old fashioned way, I mean, you're making a higher low, we could swing it higher, right? But again, this imbalance here does look to be problematic, because me personally, I don't like buying through these imbalances, right? I'll buy up to one. So I'll buy up to this point and then look for something else once the market actually reaches this area. But just considering, this point of interest that we have here, and then we have this huge fair value gap overlaying this area, you could really consider that. Some people call them breaker blocks, where, the market pushes up, breaks structure, then you have the block underneath it, essentially like overlaying it in a sense like that. And I could see the market definitely coming back up, starting to consolidate a bit, pushing back down. As that pushes down, probably see the DXY make some new highs as well. So again, this is probably going to help. Not to say they correlate perfectly, but we will notice that even those short-term sales that you're looking at could potentially cause some somewhat bullishness for the time being on the NAS, and then later on continuation, right? So that's pretty much what I see. What you guys thinking on that?
Yeah, I mean, being the other NASDAQ specialist on the call, I definitely agree with you, bro. Here, let me share my screen. I'll show you guys.
Kind of
I was
spot
taking a
on,
look
to
at
be
this.
honest.
I feel good whenever Skaggs agrees with you. That's cause to be very happy and excited. We're gonna have a huge week.
All right, let me just make sure that we are sharing screen. All right, beautiful. That looks
Kind
great.
of looks like a redistribution, if you ask me.
So yeah, I mean, like the question here is, wow, this is definitely not the same chart I was just looking at. Hold on. Let's say I just did analysis on here. It must have not saved. Well, that's annoying. Okay. Yeah, that's annoying. Okay. Nonetheless, I'm in agreement that this low probably does not hold for the week. I'm a big fan of this momentum continuing, right? The momentum that we had last week. And for me, it's really just, again, kind of coming down to the fact that I'm expecting these wicks to fill. We kind of talked about this last week, how we have like this, like, I mean, the weekly wick from last week now has kind of filled on this side. And we still have all this liquidity to be captured. Again, we have wicks here that we can kind of potentially fill. But my bias is pretty simple, right? I'm expecting the moves from last week to continue up and through CPI. right? What I'm doing is I'm playing what I think is the same rumor that the smarter money played last week, right? Because everybody was kind of looking at these rallies and these break of structures and these shifts. And what I'm not fully convinced on is the bullishness like of this move, right? So for me, like whenever you get like a break of structure, right? Let's just mark out the clear break of structure that we had last week and get rid of a lot of the stuff from the chart. Like we still haven't filled as high as I want to fill, right? But we're looking at these lows, right? So a lot of people probably looked at like, again, this, and you know, people have their opinions about what you would call this. A lot of the smart money traders and people that want to teach Wyckoff concepts on Instagram specifically would normally label this as a change of character, right? And if you don't know what a change of character is, all right, it's basically the first break of structure in a trend, right? So it's like we all know that a standard break of structure is just anytime, right, you break above structure. The change of character is just the first time that happens, and then every time after is just a break of structure, right? So this is the first time it switches, that's your change of character, right? That's what the definition of a change of character is, right? So everybody's looking at this as that change of character. Now, this is why I stress the importance of volume, is because if people really knew what a real Wyckofian change of character was, they would know that a change of character is only valid if it's accompanied by higher buying volume or higher buying activity, right? There is no higher buying activity as you're creating these highs, right? As you're trading up in this area, right? The buying volume that's happening within these highs is not higher than all previous buying activity on the way down, right? So this is what you call like almost like fake buying, fake lows. Rice speaks about them as being like weak lows, right? Because the result of this low is what's happening at the highs, right? Whether or not there is more buying activity happening or not. So again, we can just drop, you know, the line here again, and you can see the actual volume association with the highs on both times that it broke, and there's just no buying activity happening up here. And then immediately as you start shifting back to the downside, you do get, you know, increase in selling over all the buyers. So the sellers are still very much in control. For me, what I need to see is a reaction, right, from these lows, from these liquidity pockets that does bring in sustained buying. And I believe we'll get that after CPI. That's my suspicion. That's my belief. That doesn't mean it's right. It just means that if I see that after CPI, my belief level in taking buys at that point will be raised, right? That's why a lot of this stuff that you're seeing now, this very easy melt off, it's people that are buying because of the retracement. I can't tell you how many people, how many retail traders probably threw a fib on this thing. And you could see it's been forever since I've used fibs because the color scheme don't even match up. But I'm sure a bunch of people tried buying off the 38.2 or 61.8 or whatever they were using, right? Everybody has their preferred reversal fib level, which is why, again, this is like a fallacy tool. Again, something that I don't necessarily believe in. And you could see those people were just getting liquidated because their change of character, their break of structure, their shift in momentum is not real, right? It's not sustainable. It has no logic backing it. So for me, I do think, again, that we wipe some of these lows. I'm pretty in alignment with what Ray's looking at. I mean, in terms of like areas to sell off of, you know, this is an area I was kind of looking at, you know, which is more or less the bottom part of where Ray was looking at. For me, it's not really that important about how far we pull back because I'll be just paying attention to it during the times that matter, right? So I'll be up during pre-market, I'll be up during, you know, the open, I'll be live on my charts, and I can read what's happening, you know, up in these areas as we approach them. And then if I see a reason to get in a sell, I'll get in a sell. But yeah, bro, I'm pretty much like on that same path. Now that I think about it, I think the analysis I did was on EU. Yeah, it was on EU. I thought I was on NAS. But yeah, I mean, that's my opinion on NASDAQ. I don't want to jump ahead unless anybody else has something they want to say about the NASDAQ. But I would highly expect these lows to get rated. And then at that point, we might, you know, we'll see if buyers come in. Because if you are a Wyckofian trader, you're looking at like, you know, your preliminary support here, your selling climax, your AR. And then now what we're looking for is like a lower grade ST. that, over the next course of like the next 3-4 weeks or so, as a potential. Let's go see if there's anything in the chats.
Yeah, no, that's
since me and Ray went on a little bit of a rant there.
No, that's a very
and if anybody
interesting
has
move, though,
anything
for
else they
sure.
want to, what was that, Abel?
So that's a very interesting outlook, for sure. I like how you're always looking in terms of those pockets of liquidity where we could expect those reactions from. Yeah, I like that move. I like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
same here.
It's early Sunday theory. Remember, possibly even Wednesday, you're gonna get wrecked.
Like, no lie though, bro. It's happened to me so many times on Sunday. And that's why, I even push myself. Obviously, you got to have that framework to follow for consistency. But sometimes there's those days where it's just there. Like even last week, that bullish rally was on a Sunday. So,
Yeah, that's very true. So it was all Sunday driven.
Yeah. So, when I'm looking at it in that term, hopefully we do get the AR, right? And but even still, I'm definitely, especially if it hits today, I'm all in. It is somewhat of a gamble here, just because I don't see the clear fair value gap, and that's why I do feel like ultimately, even if it was to go bullish from here, I know it's gonna fail. So, I'm just looking at possibilities, but I definitely feel like it's gonna buy from either there or sweep the low again and then buy. So
yeah, I mean, you could definitely, I mean, like when you're talking liquidity pockets, like if you were gonna try to buy, like it would be in this zone, right? And again, there are people that trade just like this. I mean, I even thought about just doing this myself, like literally just only trading at the extremes. Like literally you just put, a limit right in the middle of this range and you just do low. I mean, there's people that do that. They trade just literally extreme liquidity pockets and they trade from pocket to pocket. So it's like you take a buy in here, just expecting the low to hold. And what you're playing is just, you're playing the extreme risk to reward. Because again, if you're putting your entry there, running a stop like this, and then you're trading to the next liquidity pocket, which is up here, you're getting 1 to 9s, 1 to 10s. And again, like this is going to have a low, win rate because you're playing in very volatile areas. It's as easy as demand can step in here is also as easy as sellers can step in, which is what people don't realize too, is like volatility is a double-edged sword. You're like, oh, I can see a lot of demand stepping in there. Well, then by logic dictates, if a lot of demand can step in there, then so can a lot of supply, because you can't have one without the other, right? There's somebody on each side of the market. There's just, one has more money than the other, which allows them to continue past where the other one can. It's like a game of tug of war. Eventually one side runs out of strength, right? They run out of power and they get overpowered. So, but there are people that play in that logic. And if you manage your money the correct way, you can be very profitable doing that. You could ignore everything and just take that. you could be successful. You can make any trading strategy profitable, family, which, by the way, is something that we will be focusing on specifically inside of the Profit Society. So when people join, our masterclass structure is set up to not make you trade the way that we trade, but make you understand that you can make the way you trade profitable, or at the very least understand that it's not profitable and that it's actually worth changing. Because some of you are just trading with unprofitable money management and technical execution parameters, which even if you trade at your best, will still give you a negative equity curve. But yeah, what do you guys want to look at next in terms of pairs? It seems like the chat is, well, we actually have a question in the chat I think we all should address. So 20 Pip Savage says, if I was a brand new trader, what's the first thing you would tell me to focus on to start catching up? And I'll divert this to you guys. I'll let you guys answer this, and I'll throw my opinion at the end.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think one of the first things that you have to truly focus on is figuring out if this is something that you actually truly want to do, right? And the reason why I bring that up is because over the past few years, we have seen an influx of people wanting to trade, but it was only because of the hype, right? Because of, the marketing, right? The tactics behind it, right? All this show, all this stuff, right? When you actually get started trading, you don't realize how hard it really is, right? How much work it really is, and you lose motivation very, very quickly, right? So I really recommend everybody Like before you even place a trade, like actually sit down and ask yourself, damn, do I actually want to be a trader? And then actually go and learn on everything that it takes to truly be a trader, right? And then from there, if you still are very interested, then it's just all about finding the right education, the right mentor, right mentorship, and then locking in with that. But again, I truly believe, and I say this all the time, right, that there's 2 days that people have when they start this journey, right? The day that they actually, start learning it, but then in the day that they actually decide to go all in with it, right? So it's all about making sure that this is something that you truly want to do so that you can make that decision and say, yo, I want to go all in with this, right? So I hope that makes sense, but that's my answer, right? So what else do you guys got for that answer?
Um, I would say definitely get right with yourself, because this is not working a job. Hours don't necessarily equate to pay when it comes to trading. And if you're hard headed, right, if you just don't have discipline, you're gonna be going in circles and you're gonna waste a couple like good years of your life without really having profit. And this is where discipline in all areas of life comes in handy. This is where you got to learn how to manage your emotions with people in your personal relationships. Practice your money management outside of the laptop, not just when you're looking on charts and stuff. And it's more of a habitual thing. You have to start to download the right habits, because the markets don't have emotions. The market's not going to say, he's a good guy, he studies 12 hours a day, so I'm gonna go ahead and give him money. Like, the markets could care less about you or anybody else. And that's where you have to really be very disciplined, because like I said, I think it was last week, the markets is like that strict parent where if you do anything wrong, you 1 minute past curfew is going black on you, and it's like anything you do wrong could be that time where you bite yourself in the foot or shoot yourself in the foot. So, I would say start looking at long-term habits to create, because you can have good habits for a short period of time, but if you go backwards, you're not going to keep the money you made. So start looking at it for a lifestyle change. Don't look at it as something I'm going to do to make money and then I'm going to, go wild out and just revert back to old ways. This has to change your entire process of thinking for the rest of your life. And, look at it long term, because by the time you make money, like consistently, and be able to actually live off of this, it's going to be so ingrained in your DNA. Like, the things that make you super excited and anxious and all of that, those emotions are going to be gone by the time you actually reach the level you truly desire, because you probably put in 10,000 hours and you've seen it all. And this is the reason why, me and the other guys on this call, we can have huge profits and it doesn't really phase us. We can have huge losses. It doesn't really phase us, because we're just traders at this point. Like, we don't even do this it's obviously it's exciting, but that's not the whole purpose and why we're doing this. We're doing this because it's a part of who we are. We've been doing this for minimum 4 years. I think the shortest time span on this call is 4 years, all the way up to 7 or 8. So, that's how you really got to look at it, guys. Ask yourself, do you feel like you're going to be a trader 4 or 5 years from now? And if the answer is yes, then this is for you. But if you just want to run up a quick buck, I hate to tell you, you might get humbled, and you just got to be able to roll with the punches, man. So work on all types of habits, continuously grow, and forget that you're even trying to, necessarily make money. Just fall in love with the passion. The money's going to follow.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That was a very deep answer, but I like that though. I mean, what else? What else do you guys think, Kyle? You got anything to add on to that question? What's the first thing you would tell me to
Yeah.
focus? Mm-hmm.
So I mean, honestly, I agree like crazy with what you had to say, bro, because making that decision is everything. Like, if you are kind of iffy, like, man, let me just try this out, let me just see if this works. Like, you know, trust me, you're gonna take those losses. It's not gonna work for a little bit. So if you're in this just to try to see if it works, there's gonna be a point in time where it's not gonna work, and you're gonna be like, damn, maybe this is not for me, maybe this is not going to work, and maybe this doesn't. Some people, they create this narrative when it doesn't work. They're like, man, trading doesn't work. Oh yeah, I tried it out already, it doesn't work. Yeah, like they just create this narrative in their mind that it doesn't work. but maybe it just didn't work that one time that you were trying it. And the winner's mindset, the winner's mentality is not, I'm gonna see if this works, is no, I'm gonna do this until it works, right? So you gotta have that mentality. Really, you gotta be that type of guy that says, yo, I know it's not gonna work 100% at first, but I'm gonna keep going until it works. So just to go off of that, I would say my real deal answer is start a journal, right? Really start a journal. Especially if you're new, or even if you're not new. Like a lot of you guys are like a year into trading, or like 2 years into trading, and you haven't journaled. Like you don't have a journal. Like you're not like tracking your progress, right? And it kind of seems cliche. For a lot of people, they're like, man, like what's that going to do for me? Like, how am I going to make money off of that? Like, it'd be the smallest things that hold you back from really big success, right? That's like something that I really hold near and dear. Sometimes it's very, very small things holding you back from big money. So, it's a really small thing to just journal every day, right? How many of you guys can honestly say that, yo, I haven't been journaling every single trade that I've taken over the past 2 weeks? Go ahead and drop a 2 in the chat. And it's okay. Sometimes you have to hold yourself accountable. Like I ask everybody on this call to hold me accountable. Even my business partners on here, Skag, Abel, Ray, they hold me accountable. Like I always ask them to hold me accountable. So sometimes you got to hold yourself accountable, right? But the only way you can hold yourself accountable is you could truly know what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right. And, like I'm seeing in the chat, there's a whole lot of y'all that are not journaling everything. And, at the end of the day, again, you could look back at the end of the week, at the end of the month, and you could see the blue or the red on your MetaTrader. And I promise you this, when you see that red, you're just going to scroll through all the trades, be like, oh, okay, cool. I took these losses, I took these wins, but there's no real reflection. Like there's no real like, okay, cool. I lost majority of my bag because I was trying to buy Euro USD. But I made all the money that I made, all the profits, like selling Euro USD. And I would had 20 pip stop losses. That's what I was doing, right? But you can't see that just from the MetaTrader 4 history, right? You need to actually have a clear, concise, like, yo, I wrote down every single trade that I took over the past 2 weeks, over the past 3 weeks, right? Whether the past 3 weeks was a profitable month or a negative month, it's good regardless, right? It's really good regardless. I'm gonna bring up something just to like give like some perspective. I know I'm a ramble for a bit, but like it's really true, right? I want you guys to understand that, whether you did have a profitable month, that's good. Still journal. Still make sure that you wrote down every single trade. Why? Because then you'll know how to duplicate it. You'll know how to do that over and over again. You know how to make sure what you did to replicate onto the next month. Now, if you're having a negative month, again, you get to see what you're doing really wrong so you could do less of it. And the same thing for the wins. Like if you're having wins, you know what to do more of. So I'm gonna share my screen right now. Did want to I got to airdrop it to myself on my phone because this is actually really powerful. Like this right here is actually going to change your perception. Your perception is what creates a reality, right? Your reality, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whatever it is, it's all based off of your perception, right? A lot of people could be like, man, I'm in the hospital right now. This is really bad. My life is going downhill. Or like, man, I'm not doing so well. A lot of people when they're in the hospital, like, man, I'm not really doing so well. I don't know what's gonna happen, right? But on the other hand, you could be in the same position. You could be the same person, having the same exact life, having the same exact things happening to them, but their perception is, oh yeah, I was a little sick, but I'm in the hospital now and they're taking care of me and I'm gonna be way better after this. You see how it's the same scenario, it's the same person, but the perception is different, right? The perception is different on every single, on every single thing in life. So I did just want to show this, right? So this is a failed project, and you could also flip and make it think in your mind like, yo, this is a failed trade, right? Because this is what happens a lot of times as traders, right? Sometimes we have a trade that hits stop loss and it's a failed trade or it's a failed project. Just think of the word project as trade, right? Because this could apply to trading, plus it could apply to a lot of other business ventures or anything else you're doing in entrepreneurship. So let's say with a failed trade, right? A lot of people would think about the second folder right now. Oh yeah, I had a failed trade, stop loss hit. They'd be like, damn, I'm worthless. I'm the worst trader in the world. Like that's what a lot of us are thinking when we have a stop loss get hit. We're like, man, I suck. Like what's going wrong, right? Like I'm worthless. And sometimes when you flip the perception, you could flip it to say, man, I just had lessons learned. I just learned something off of that. Now, on the other hand, a successful project, let's say you had a successful trade. Let's say you had the most amazing trade of the week. See, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll go to the second folder and they'll be like, man, I'm so great. This is proof that I'm amazing. This is proof that I'm great. But you should always stay on this side where there's lessons learned. There's always lessons learned. There's always something you could learn. So if you're not journaling, you're not learning anything. You're just going back and forth between emotions of damn, I suck, stop loss hit. The next day, damn, I'm amazing, I'm lit, take profit hit. So you gotta always stay in the middle ground and always understand that there's always a different perception to whatever it is that you're going through. So journal everything so you can understand those emotions and you can be aware of them every single time. Because trading is a very emotion powered game, right? You can never have zero emotions, right? A lot of people say trade without emotion, but you're always going to have emotion. So that's why it's good to document them so you can be aware of them. So you can be like, yeah, all right, I just came off of a win yesterday. Let me just understand that I might be a little excited. I just came off of a loss yesterday. Let me understand that I might be a little bit more fearful. And, when you start to be aware of those emotions, you won't trade with those emotions. You'll always come back to the side of, man, I learned my lesson last time. Let me just stay in the middle. So, that's pretty much my answer to the question. Journal, understand your emotions, and learn everything every time. Be a student of the game. I'm a student to everybody. Whenever I first started entrepreneurship, that was actually one of my titles, that I was the biggest student, because no matter who it was, it could be somebody that was not even making as much money as me. Guess what? If they had something I could learn from them, I was learning it. I was asking them questions. So, always lean up to towards that side that you're always learning, that you never know everything and you can always learn something.
Very well said.
Yeah, you went in. Sheesh. Family, you guys got some value. Family, drop some threes in the chat, man, because he just absolutely went deep. And this is more of a mindset training, guys, just to really understand that, again, we have to develop our minds. We have to consistently develop our minds so that we can attract the goals and accomplish the things that we're absolutely after, family. So that was absolutely valuable, Kyle. I appreciate you for that, for sure. You got anything else?
Yes, sir.
You got anything else you going over?
Y'all start a journal ASAP. Hope y'all have a journal. And if there's anybody that feels like that was a waste of time, I promise you don't have a journal. And that's probably why, because I just exposed some things that you're not doing.
For sure, for sure. All right, let me go.
You know what's crazy too is I've been working on a little journal for them. Don't worry, for those yeah, for the people that are in the Profit Society community on the actual website. Once we hit that master class, they'll have a journal that does things that they probably have not considered. And then, that'll be the digital version. The digital version will be cool. It'll have calculators. It'll do a lot of projections for you. It's a lot of fun stuff. But we'll also get you guys, possibly a physical journal, right? We did something that we've discussed. It's good to actually write stuff down. There is a lot of stuff you could do with a physical journal, but I'm willing to bet, the digital spreadsheet that I give you guys will really allow you to break stuff down in crazy ways, because the data is everything, man. We talk about this a lot. It's like you have to track. Like, again, if you guys think Kyle's little rant there is like unnecessary, then you're really not treating this like a business, right? I need you guys to type something in the chat for me, right? Let me know if you guys do this as a hobby or as a business. Because some people are hobby traders. That's cool. You just like to push the buttons. You like to see the numbers go up and down. It's no different than enjoying to play at a slot machine. You could treat it this way. We call them hobby traders. You're a hobby trader, right? But if you have data, if you track your success, then that's how, when you're operating like a business, right? So hopefully again, you guys are business traders, meaning you guys have your books, you have your records, what's being successful, what's not being successful. And listen, don't type business in the chat just for me, because I'll be honest with you guys. I love you all, but I really don't care if you're a hobby trader or a business trader, because it doesn't affect my account, right? I treat mine like a business. I don't really necessarily care if you do. I hope that you do. I encourage that you do. But generally speaking, I think a lot of people are in that hobby space, which is okay, because you can make the change right now. You can start tracking your stuff. You can start taking it serious.
That's a fact.
Yeah, and you guys could just continue to move from there. But let's see here.
Yo, I don't think that they saw like the screen when I was doing this shit, but like
I can't confirm or deny that. Is that what they said? Yeah, I can't. I wasn't here. I'm gonna apologize.
No, I'm on.
Oh no, they see it. They see it. My bad. My stream was bad. My stream wasn't loaded.
Oh, not live? Yeah, I got you. Somebody said, what's actually the Profit Society website here? I'll drop that in the chat for you guys. I'm pretty sure I made myself a mod. Actually, if you guys stick around until the end, of course it didn't hyperlink, because why would it? Let me copy and paste this.
Shout out to Gregu too. Shout out to him, man. We got shout out to all the fans in the Profit Society.
568 subs seems like a scam to me. Well, this channel is only a week and a half old. My channel here, which I'm typing in the chat with, has 1,500. I mean, Abel got 20,000.
Bro, honestly, this is what I gotta say. Like 560. Like, if you got something to say, like, we don't have to be on here. You could leave. Like I could
not
just
even.
go about.
I mean, listen.
No, let him stay, bro.
No, yeah. Why you don't listen, bro? He cool.
He's
some people, it's their first time on. You guys are cool, man. This is a new channel.
Listen, what we're not gonna do is feed into that. So let's go ahead and get into GU, right? Because I'm very interested in actually showing you guys what I'm looking at for GU, right? And hopefully, again, anybody that is on the chat, is on the call, actually takes this information and I mean, it's not for you guys just to copy, for you guys to actually learn and see exactly how it's done, right? How we at least approach the markets, how we break it down, how we analyze it, all that good stuff, right? And that's the thing, guys, right? Again, we focus on positivity. We're here focused on growth, and we're not going to pay no energy or put no energy or focus into anybody that's not in the same wavelength that we are.
Hey, Abel, real quick, bro, real quick. They want you to, if you can, increase your own personal volume a little bit. It seems like they're having some issue hearing you. I've seen a few comments now.
Let me see if I can.
Guys, let us know if it's better on Abel's side. Let us know in the chat. Make sure you guys can hear it.
Let me see if I can, right? That should be a little bit better for sure. I did just raise it up. But overall, guys, right, let me actually give you guys an outlook on GU, because I think GU actually looks very, very attractive this week, in my opinion. I think, again, we're probably just going to continue with this bearish momentum that we've been in. I mean, if we really look at GBPUSD, this thing has just been tanking, guys, literally the entire year, right? Honestly, even last year, right? All the way in the beginning of last year, we just been falling off of a cliff, right? Obviously, a big reason for that has to do with the strength of the dollar overall. But, over there in the UK, guys, they pretty much just broke their own system over there, right? They just implemented they just added a new prime minister that ended up implementing a bunch of new policies that was not looked at as positive. The pound over there, or not even the pound, but that economy over there, guys, in the UK is really going through a lot of stuff right now, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt, a lot of fear. Right, so that's definitely also adding into a lot of this bearishness that we have been seeing lately, right, over the past few weeks or so, is just because of those new policies that just were implemented. But overall, I think we're going to continue with that, right? So if we take a look at this thing, guys, from the daily time frame here, right, I'm just looking at what price has done over the past few days, right? You know, because I'm very big on analyzing what momentum is currently doing. Why? Because I want to make sure I'm getting aligned back with the overall order flow of this market. Order flow of this market, guys, is clearly bearish, right? But overall, the past few weeks, what have we seen? Or past few days, right? Bearish candle, right? Bearish candle that broke previous day, right? Even the most recent bearish candle, right? It also broke previous day. You know, we also do have, you know, this imbalance right here that we could potentially expect the market to go ahead and target towards. So overall, I do think that we do have an opportunity to continue going bearish here for GBPUSD, right? So that's what I'm going to be looking for going into this week, right? Now let's actually go ahead and start making our way down to lower time frames here. And you guys will really be able to start to see the actual structure, like the actual market structure and the price action that I'm really going to be interested in and really looking to play. All right, so overall, break this down. Big sell-off, right? The market ended up correcting all the way back up, right? We can see all this stuff. But what is market currently doing, right? Like if we zoom in, like what is this market actually doing here, right? The market itself, guys, is really starting to show us that, yeah, we were in this bullish little momentum, but overall, it looks like it's starting to now to shift, right? And we're also seeing these lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs now starting to be formed. Right now, again, we do have this level right here of structure support that, in my opinion, is going to be an area, guys, that's utilized to entice traders, right? This area right here, guys, is going to be a super attractive area for, you know, a lot of, you could say, beginner traders or inexperienced traders to start looking for buys, right? And again, it could actually buy off from there. But the way I'm really interpreting this, the way I'm going to be looking at this is I think this level right here is just going to be an area of liquidity, a pocket of liquidity, guys, that we're eventually going to end up running. Okay, so my whole bias for this week is definitely more bearish, but I really just want to go ahead and target this, right? I really want to go ahead and just target, you know, these lows that we have here, right? I want to be able to go ahead and collect all this liquidity that I believe is going to be positioned right below this low here at around this 1.103 per se, right? So that's going to be my overall blueprint, guys, for GBPUSD. I would like to go ahead and see this thing continue to go bearish overall. Right, so now let's actually go ahead and continue working our way down to lower time frames, right, to really see if we could fine tune or look for an entry that might actually make sense. Right now, the first area that I'm gonna be keeping my eyes on, guys, I'm actually gonna highlight it. You know, is gonna be right back up to this level of structure. Let me actually go ahead and just highlight this. You know, if we're able to see price come back up to this area, guys, I think that this could be a very interesting area for us to really look for some continuations from. Right, so on a move back up here for GBPUSD. Right, I like it for us to go ahead and continue going bearish, right? So I think it looks very good. For all of you guys that, you know, are more familiar with identifying patterns and things like that, you know, this is obviously going to look more so like this head and shoulders type of play, right? Where for me, I get the patterns. I understand the patterns. They're there. But I don't really focus too much on the pattern. I focus on what the price action is telling me, right? It's just the price action just ends up creating the pattern, right? But it's more so what is price actually doing, right? And where can we realistically actually target price to actually go, right? So I think there's a good chance for us, right, to really go ahead and look for some selling opportunities, guys, going into this week. Right now, to give you guys a more broken down entry, or like the actual entry that I'll be looking at, you guys can really keep your eyes on this one as well, right? But I'm gonna be interested, guys, in seeing how we do end up playing around this level up here. Right, this area of supply right up here, right, and we know it's an area of supply because we see, you know, how much selling pressure ended up coming into the market in the past. And again, very simple, guys, you know, due to how aggressively this thing sold off, right, there could have been an opportunity or a chance where there wasn't all of the sell orders fully filled, right? So when we're looking at, you know, areas of supply and demand, guys, we really have to take that into consideration. Okay, all right, how fast was that move away, and what is the likelihood of price coming back up to that area and also going ahead and seeing another similar reaction, right? There's usually a very good likelihood of it actually occurring because, again, due to how fast price left away, right, there was probably a lot of unfilled orders, unfilled sell orders that weren't able to get triggered because of that fast how that one is, right? So that's an area that we could potentially expect all those unfilled orders to finally get filled, and because of that, we'll go ahead and see some type of a reaction to the downside, right? So very interesting play here, guys, for GBPUSD. I'm going to be keeping my eyes on this one for sure to see how the market ends up playing out, but I think this is a very good looking opportunity here. I mean, it got one of my favorite plays here, right? One of my favorite patterns, guys, is, you know, in a downtrend, it's going to be something like this, right? Where we start to create this resistance, we break the resistance, and then we see an initial break of structure, right? That change of character, right? We see the break of the highs followed by a break of the lows, and then from there, typically, we see that continuation from that, right? And that's exactly what we're seeing here on GBPUSD, right? We seen the market end up breaking the lows over here to the left. Then we just ended up going sideways, accumulating to the side. We ended up running the highs and then immediately came and broke the lows, right? So now typically we'll see a follow through to the downside, guys, for GBPUSD, right? So that's what I'm looking for. I think it looks super attractive. It's definitely probably one of my favorite setups going into this week. You know, I'm very comfortable risking a solid 2% for that. Even if we just target back down to these initial lows that we're at, I mean, that's a 3.5 to 1 risk to reward. So, you know, risking 2%, we can target 6%, 6.5%, right? So that one looks super good. I like it. I like it. I like it for sure. All right. So that's what I'm at. What do you guys think, right? What are you guys' thoughts on GBPUSD, right? I think it looks good, though. I'm not even going to lie.
I like it a lot. And primarily because you have clean sweeps of the highs, not just in the high that actually created the move, but also just in the area of consolidation before you pushed up and made that high. And then you made the new lows. And what I always like to look at is comparing the highs against the lows, where we're sweeping liquidity on the highs, but we're creating liquidity amongst the lows. So, you know, that's just an easy way for me to kind of, you know, figure out which side is going to hold and which side is going to get taken. So, you know, I agree 100%, bro. And just the fact that you do have, you know, little internal range liquidity, since you are taking that last buy to sell candle, you don't really have to mark that up. But I love to see, you know, those, you know, lower time frame highs that is with exactly. So, so yeah, like just the slight area of consolidation, a little bit of hesitation. That's always beneficial, you know, when it comes to me validating a zone, because obviously you could just have imbalance with nothing there, and the market will respect from time to time. But I just find it to be a lot more profitable when you're taking something out with, like, while you're retracing as well. And you know, the fact that we have those lower time frame structure points before you reach your point of interest, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the more attractive setups for sure going into this week. Again, we do have to just keep in mind, family, just to bring back up news. You know, we do have a ton of pound news this week, right? So just be mindful of that. The pound news that's coming up isn't, in my opinion, going to affect my overall bias from a technical perspective, because I do think that we're just going to continuously sell this thing off, you know, even no matter what the data comes out as over there in the UK. But it's just something to keep in mind, right? We do have data. We do have a lot of news for the pound, but I think this is a very attractive opportunity here, guys, for GBPUSD. All right, so that's definitely one I'm going to be keeping.
Your markup spot on, bro. That's pretty much the same thing that I have. So I'd definitely be looking to take that lower for sure.
Yeah, it definitely looks good. Let's see. Keep turning your volume up. I mean, I think I turned my volume up as high as I can. Let me see if I can turn it up a little bit more. Let me see. You guys are gonna have to hear. You guys are gonna hear me super loud if y'all keep playing. Watch. I'm gonna turn it up all the way. All right, but this looks good, family. All right, another opportunity that I was also looking at for this week as well. I'm gonna be keeping my eyes on GJ. Right, I'm actually interested in GJ for sure. Right, I actually have a little markup on the screen right now. But I'll actually break it down for you guys so you guys can see exactly what I'm looking for. And again, I know GJ is usually a fan favorite. I mean, they always used to be until indices really started to pop off. But overall, it's still a very good opportunity here, guys, for GBPJPY. Right now, let me actually go ahead and break this down and give you guys an overall rundown of why I'm going to be looking at the way I'm looking at for GJ. All right, so GJ is very interesting, guys. Overall, again, we did experience a massive sell-off over here just because of everything that happened over there in the UK with their new policies that they were looking to implement and all that good stuff, right? But look at how it rebounded, right? Like, again, when we're talking about reading price action, guys, we're talking about reading like these type of reactions, right? Like we had a crazy sell-off, and this thing immediately pretty much just rebounded pretty quickly, right? In fact, we rebounded so much that it actually brought us back above a key level of structure, right? Key level of structure that was holding for quite some time. I mean, look at this thing. It was holding for, I mean, a whole 2 months or so, right? Like this is a while that this area of structure, guys, was holding. And the only reason why we did end up breaking it was because, again, data, news, right? An event actually occurred that caused that break of structure. But look how we rebounded. So I think, and I could be wrong, right? I'm only a human being, right? But I think that there is a good chance for us to actually go ahead and start going higher from these levels right here. Right, so very simple for me, my blueprint, my overall major, bigger outlook. I want to see this thing rebound. Now let's start going a lower time frame though and seeing what we're actually looking for, right, on lower time frame, right? So I'm gonna go straight down to the smaller ones, like the 15-minute, right? Because I'm gonna be looking for a few specific things here, guys, right? So again, this level right here that I'm actually gonna turn into a highlighted zone, this red zone, right? That's that level we highlighted on the bigger picture, right? That's that level that, again, showed a lot of structure, a lot of support, a lot of rejections, a lot of reactions from, right? So there could be an opportunity for us to, catch a move off of here, right? And looking at what we're doing here, this looks very similar to GBPUSD, right? In terms of how it's structured, played out, where we had the sweep of the highs and then we ended up having the sweep of the lows, right? But why am I looking at this from a different perspective then, right? If it looks similar to GU. Well, it's really going to be based off the currency that we're trading against, right? Again, GBPUSD, I'm very bearish because I'm so bullish the US dollar, right? That bullish strength in the dollar, just because, again, market conditions overall definitely plays a major role, guys, in my decision making, right? So I'm very bearish GBPUSD because the data says it, the fundamental is it makes sense, sentimental it makes sense, and also the technical is now also starting to make sense. But here on GBPUS or GBPJPY, see, it's a little bit of a different ball game now, right? Because now it's not the pound against the dollar, right? The strongest currency on the board. Now it's the pound against the Japanese yen, which is the weakest currency across the board right now, right? So yeah, the pound is experiencing a lot of selling pressure because of these new policies, because of this new prime minister, all that good stuff. But I don't think even with all that things that's occurring over there in UK, I don't think that that's going to overpower the weakness that the Bank of Japan, or at least the Japanese yen, has truly have because of the Bank of Japan's policies that they have, right? So again, it's definitely more of a fundamental approach, guys, with these decisions that I make, which I told you guys, I'm very big on fundamental and sentimental analysis, right? But that's why I'm actually thinking that this can actually rebound, right? So I think there's actually a good chance, guys, for this to actually rebound. And I think at least against the Japanese yen, we can experience higher pricing here for GJ. All right, and I hope you guys are understanding, guys, again, the difference between trading pound dollar as opposed to trading pound yen. And it's all because of the policies that are correlated with the central banks, which is giving the strength to these currencies. Right, this is actually a very, very, very powerful nugget I want to give y'all real quick, right? Because, and I've been talking about this a lot as well, right? Because when we're talking about currency strength, you guys are going to come on here and hear from a bunch of different quote-unquote mentors, and they're telling you guys to come to things like this to measure currency strength, right? Yeah, man, come to this chart, live charts, right? Currency strength meter, right? And they're going to be like, yeah, man, you guys could, make decisions on which one is stronger. But I'm going to tell you guys one thing about this chart, right? Or these tools, right? These tools are not going to help you predict future price action. Right, it's telling you what's strong right now, but that doesn't mean this currency going to be stronger the next hour, right? In the next 30 minutes, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, right? So you got to be very careful, guys, utilizing these tools right here to try to really predict future price action, because that's not what this tool is about, right? But this is what you're going to be pushed all over the place. What you can utilize to actually figure out real currency strength, right, is compare things like interest rates. Right, compare things like how bond rates are looking at, right? How are government bonds doing across the board, right? Those are the things, guys, that are really giving us strength in terms of currency, right? So just keep things simple, let's actually just look at the central bank rates, right? The interest rate decisions, okay? Very simple. Usually, the central banks that are offering the higher rate, the higher interest rate, are usually the ones that are going to be the strongest. Why is that? Well, because if you're thinking about foreign trade, if you want to be a foreign investor and you want to invest into, a government or an economy, you're usually going to go with the one that is going to give you the best rate of return, right? We're talking about, again, at least the major central banks, right? So, yeah, we use that in a reference, guys, to actually predict currency strength. The reason why the the US dollar is so strong and the Fed is dealing with a very strong dollar is not only just because it is the currency reserve of the world, right? It is, the currency that is involved in almost 60 to 70% of all transactions, right? The dollar. So yeah, the dollar is going to hold the most weight, but the dollar also is giving a pretty hefty interest rate, right? At 3.25, right? It's pretty much ahead of the game, right? So you understand, you're wondering why the dollar has been gaining so much strength. It's because, for one, it's the safe haven of the world, but it's also because it's giving a much better rate of return as opposed to the ECB, right? The European Central Bank, which is where the euro's at, right? Or even better than the Bank of England, right? Which is at 2.25%, right? The Swiss franc at only 0.5%, right? Half of a percent, right? And then we have the RBA, the Bank of Australia, 2.6, right? Bank of Canada, 3.25 as well. And this is also a reason, guys, why the Bank of Canada is also really strong up there with the Federal Reserve or with the US dollar, right? Because they're giving a higher rate of return, right, for your investment. So if you really want to understand currency strength, this is actually a very in-depth way of doing that, right? Which currency or which country or which central bank is offering the best rate of return, the return on your investment? Because typically that's going to be the one that a lot of foreign investors are going to want to go ahead and put all their money on so that they can make the most from their money. Okay, I hope that makes sense, family, right? Drop some threes if that's making sense, right? Because, again, we're giving you guys real-life value, real information on how to really predict currency. Right now, again, I see somebody said Brazil going crazy, right? Yeah, Brazil's at 13.75, but you also have to understand, too, right? There are going to be some of these that are going to be inflating their interest rates because now they have no choice, right? Because inflation is just going too crazy over there. So now they're at a situation where they're probably trying to put the interest rate higher than what the rate of inflation is to finally try to get that thing back down packed. In fact, don't be surprised if that is actually a norm for a lot of these central banks, right? That's actually a very interesting point, right? Because if we go back to the last time, guys, and this is really going back in history, right? If we go back to the last time we seen inflation this high, right? It was like the 1970s or something like that, right? This is when a guy named Paul Volcker was the chairman of the Federal Reserve, right? In order for them to actually control inflation back in the 1970s, right, and the reason why inflation went so crazy was because that's when they got off of the gold standard, right? So inflation went through the roof because of now them using paper money, fiat money, all that good stuff, right? But what they had to do to control inflation back then in the 1970s was to actually make the interest rates higher than what inflation was. Right, and that's what eventually got inflation under control in the 1970s, right? The last time that we seen interest rate, or not interest rate, but inflation this high. Now, again, we're experiencing very similar environments right now. So I say that because, yeah, this is some more long-term thinking, but if we do not see inflation start to really come back down to earth anytime soon, then do not be surprised when these central banks are kind of forced to put the interest rate higher than the rate of inflation so that we finally do start to see inflation under control, right? So there's a lot of things, guys, but again, that was completely off topic right there. That's just some more value. But overall, when it comes to currency strength, this is a great way to do that. But just keep in mind, countries like the Bank of Brazil, their inflation is just so rapid that they have no choice but to boost it up, right? So I really focus on the major central banks, right? Like the Fed, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, right? The Swiss National Bank, like the major ones, right? Not the Bank of Brazil. I'm not going to be trying to trade, right? So I hope that made sense, guys. Just really giving you guys a little bit more insight in terms of what currency strength could do. So for GJ, I like this. I like the bullishness, right? We're already starting to see this breakup structure right here, right? So I think if we continue to see it, I mean, on a rebound, I'm all day looking for those opportunities to go higher. Right, I am all day looking for that, right? So again, that's just some insight, guys, as to how I approach the markets, how I use sentiment, how I use fundamental data, how I use central bank correlation, right? Interest rate differential, all this fancy terminology that I could keep. That's how I put all my biases together to really give me a fire setup, right? And something that I'm very confident in. And something that I'll also be very comfortable with taking a loss on if it did happen, right? Because, I mean, I validated my reasons for looking for these entries, and that's typically what I like to do, right? So that's my opinion on GJ right now. I'm not sure if the fellas over here got, a different opinion or a bias or anything they want to add on to it, but that's definitely what I'm looking for GJ going into this week, guys. So overall, I like GU and I like GJ personally for this week.
Yo, question for you, bro.
Yeah.
Can you just real quick load up the economic calendar? Do we have anything for the yen this week? I feel like there is a little. I could have swore I saw some yen news. I just want to make sure they don't got. Oh, they have a national holiday, don't they? Okay,
yeah, they have
maybe
the
that's what it
holiday.
was. But yeah, see if they have any news. I'm curious if they have CPI or anything this week too that we might have overlooked possibly.
They got
They have
current.
some accounting news. Yeah, I'm not concerned about that. Mostly just CPI if they have that.
Yeah,
It'd be end of week after US. No. Okay.
No, they don't got it.
Yeah, 'cause that's the only thing that would, you know, put me against your bias on that would be some yen fundamentals coming out, or the BOJ doing something random like selling off more US bonds.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's definitely something we have to keep in mind too. You know, because I think they're gonna start to really ramp up with selling U.S. bonds just to try to stabilize their currency, right? I know this is something that you've been talking about a lot for sure. You've been already
Yeah,
been,
I'm waiting, bro.
yeah,
I'm waiting for my moment to strike,
yeah,
man.
you've
You see
been,
that? You see that little negative 0.10%? I'm telling you, they're gonna tick positive eventually.
I
And
believe it.
once they do,
I
and keep
mean,
in mind too, like my belief of the Bank of Japan going positive rates is probably going to come also off the back of the Fed easing. So, you know, you'll have your warning. But
mhm.
yeah, it's my belief that once the Federal Reserve does, which again is probably still like a year and a half, 2 years out before they even do. But once the Fed does slow down a little bit, the Bank of Japan will sneak in there
Hmm.
because they have to do something over there.
Yeah,
It's gonna start getting bad the next year or so if they don't do something.
yeah, nah, 100%.
I did want to take a look at oil though, if nobody else had GJ stuff.
Nah, go ahead, take it over.
Go ahead, Oil Master.
Yeah, because I've seen somebody ask for oil before. I also see people asking for UJ, so maybe we'll wrap it up with UJ. Because we are getting towards like the 2 hour mark, so we'll probably do oil, maybe UJ. Then if the guys want to do some more, you know, obviously they could do that. I already kind of marked this up, so I'm kind of just gonna really just break this down. Oil has been very bullish. Who remembers what we talked about on oil last week? We did talk about this. I forget what day. We do a lot of live streams, so I do be forgetting the exact day, but I know we talked about oil. I believe it was on like Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was even before NFP. But there's a few things that happened with oil. All right, so oil actually started its week. Actually had a very good week last week and a good open this week, where we kind of opened up the week higher and it trended bullish all week. Now, this was off the back of Russia asking OPEC, right? Shout out to St. Jude in the chat there, right? OPEC cuts, right? Russia had asked OPEC to cut their production by 1 million barrels per day, which is a pretty good ask. You know, pretty good ask, you know, definitely going to affect the supply and demand, right? If we're not producing as much oil, there's less available supply to meet current demand, which will, you know, drive prices up. Who knows what they did, right? Russia asked them to cut by 1 million barrels per day. Who knows what they actually did? Let's see who the oil traders are, right? Who knows? Did they cut? Did they not cut? Right? What did they do? Let's see if anybody in the chat knows. Let's wake you guys up. I feel like some of you guys fell asleep. Let's see who knows. Cut by 2 mil. Cut by 2 mil is correct, right? Look, so we got two people in the chat that are up to date with their oil fundamentals. That's cool. Maybe not everybody trades it. But for those of you guys that do trade it, you guys need to be on top of this stuff, right? The adjustments that OPEC makes at these meetings when they announce this stuff greatly affect the future of oil, right? So we could already see that the market was pricing in, obviously, the ask from Russia to cut by 1 million barrels per day. We talked about the possibility that if they, you know, don't do that, or if they just cut by the 1 million, that we could have maybe seen some reactions off of this liquidity pocket, you know, possibly coinciding with like NFP. There's really no entry that produced itself in here, nothing we really wanted to take. We didn't end up actually taking any oil cells off this idea. And it's also because, again, OPEC cut by 2 million, right? So Russia only asked them for 1 million, and OPEC was like, hey, say less, man. We got you. You know what we'll do? We'll double down on that, and, you know, we'll call it a day. So that ended up happening. Plus, NFP sent the market a little bit higher. And what we're basically looking at here is a potential change of character, right? We just talked about this on Nasdaq, right? When we get this first, you know, shift of structure in recent structure, because again, this does happen, you know, where you get these fake change of characters like you did over here. The first break in structure that's supported by volume. So for me, and for those of you guys that are confused, we're looking at the CL1 exclamation point chart. This is the oil future chart. This is the only chart where you will get daily volume on oil. So if you use like the standard chart that we normally use, like US oil, you'll notice your volume won't load on the bottom here. So if you ever have this issue and you need to verify something on like the daily charts, I would advise that you guys, again, use the futures chart, which is CL1 exclamation point. You'll load up crude oil futures. And yeah, you'll actually be able to get the daily volume. So for us, again, this is the change of character here on the daily, right? Strong daily shift in structure, supported by higher volume, which again, we could also see on the 4-hour, to be fair, right? When you actually broke these highs and you started to form that change of character, this was happening. There was more volume in this area here, but both of these volume profiles are higher than everything we've had previously up to and about these points. So it is a significant amount of actual buying going on. So that being said, I do want to stay bullish. I know a lot of people are probably looking at this gap. I put a little fun thing here. I don't believe this gap actually closes. I do think it would be asking a lot for oil to, fully erase this move into this liquidity pocket. If we make it all the way back down here, there's other fundamentals that are impacting the price of oil, aside from like OPEC cuts and everything we're currently taking into account, right? There'd be some sort of unforeseen event or a shift in sentiment that would, warrant us closing this. Now, I know this goes against a lot of logic that people believe, right? Because how many of you are, gap fill traders, right? You see a gap and like, Sunday, you're like, oh man, like I got to catch my short and fill this gap. That's cute and all, right? But that's usually not always the way it goes. I do believe this will act as a longer term gap because now you're having what's, sustainable demand behind it. Some gaps are absolutely warranted, right? They have validity behind them. They don't have to close. Now, will this, get filled at some point in the future? Yeah, probably. We're not in the business of just going to keep selling it and selling it and selling it in hopes that it closes a gap. So this is a valid gap to me. I don't think we pull back down. If we do close that gap, again, I believe it's off the back of unforeseen fundamental events. But I do think now that we've kind of got this change of character, right? I'm not a fan of chasing price above this. I do believe that we need, again, some discounted pricing. And the most logical spot for me to check is below the last reaccumulations, right? So if you knock down these timeframes, you start to discover, fractal markets, and you obviously have, these other smaller reaccumulations inside of here. You have this width, which is probably going to fill out again after that leg erases. You do a bunch of noise. But basically just eventually filling out this wick, playing into some of these lower structures. And then once we do that is when I'll start looking to the buy side. I probably won't play much to the sell side, to be honest. I'm not interested in that, but I will advise that you guys sit back, wait for this next deep oil pullback. You'll notice there is something that I have down here. It says absorption missing. Now that we've gotten the change of character, right? Now that we've gotten this change of character, which again is the first break of structure on higher supporting buy volume, we need to see, right? Because this is like what you call like this is uncontested action, right? So it's like the buyers have showed their strength, right? Now the sellers need to show us their weakness. Right. So basically what I'm looking for is a period of absorption, which is when the sellers do come in on high volume, but they fail to break and or grab major liquidity. Right. So again, the way this would look is like as we, come down and play into, again, my expected area down here, what I would be hoping to see is like after we get, again, another change of character, that the sellers do try to bring price lower on a really high volume spike that fails to break. And then after that point, it should be very smooth sailing to the upside. So once I get my absorption, once I get an actual sign from the sellers that like, okay, they put a bunch of effort into the move, they weren't able to bring it any lower. Now is the time because they're completely exhausted from the market. So I do believe we'll get that at some point. Hopefully it'll be around this 84, 85 level. Again, expecting this little reaccumulation to get wiped. I don't care how we get down here. I don't care when we get down here. That's irrelevant to me. I'm waiting on my volume signal. And then I'm going to be looking to take this again to my daily targets, upwards of 100. I mean, on daily time frames, this is just like TP1, but ultimately, again, because of some of the macro geopolitical events, like I could see us, again, swinging this for like the longer time here. Again, my people, right? Shout out to all my people in the inner circle, right, that are switching over here to Profit Society with us. But you guys know we've tried multiple times to catch the larger daily, weekly continuation. And it's possible now we're getting that volume to support it. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at on oil. I don't know if anybody else has stuff they want to contribute to that they see, but I have
Yeah, I feel
spoken.
like that kind of goes in somewhat correlation of the fact that I'd like to see USD CAD go lower. So I had called out a USD CAD sell on Friday for NFP. It tapped entries a couple of times, but we are still in profit. So oil buys I do agree with. So definitely if you're on this call, screenshot that analysis, start looking for entries. I will just like go over the USD CAD for a little bit. Pretty much on Friday, we had a nice mitigation off the candle that we wanted to see. This candle that took out highs, then we came up, broke down, broke structure. I actually ended up taking majority of my profit down here at this black line, but we are respecting these levels still. And I wouldn't be surprised to see London probably give us some sort of move down like this, and then maybe New York come back to mitigate this candlestick right here to continue down. So that's something that I wouldn't be surprised of, especially since we are coming back up to a candle that we tapped about 3 or 4 times that has inefficiencies plus follows order flow. So since we did react off of this candle again, this trade idea would still be valid for me. And again, London, if you're still in this trade, hold faithfully and definitely put your stops at break even, because I wouldn't be surprised to see London drop down and then give us another retest of this order block to continue down. But that pretty much coincides with Skaggs's oil buys. So wouldn't be surprised to see USD CAD absolutely make some moves to the downside this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I mean, I like it. I like the USD CAD. I mean, very simple, guys. Like, don't overcomplicate things, right? These markets are moving based off supply and demand. They literally said that they're cutting 2 million barrels per day, right? Like again, I understand that from a technical perspective, we have to understand for the entry's sake, but just from a fundamentals perspective, guys, like that is extremely bullish oil, right? Like extremely bullish oil, right? They're removing a lot of supply of a commodity it already seems like there's not enough supply in existence right now, right? And especially for over here in the U.S., for us, we're over here begging other countries for oil right now, right? And you best believe that they're going to over here give us oil, but they're going to give it to us at a premium, right? So again, just based off the data, oil is definitely bullish. It's just a matter of finding that entry from a technical perspective. So I definitely like that for sure. I mean, it's kind of common sense though. Supply and demand just tells us that oil is going to gain strength. It should gain strength, at least, right? But other than that, family, right? What else do you guys think? Do you guys have anything else specifically you guys want to look at in terms of charts? I know my go-tos this week are going to be GBPUSD. It's going to be GJ. Those are going to be my specific pairs that I'm going to be focused on for this week. But what about you guys? What are going to be your guys' go-tos before we wrap this up?
I'm pretty locked in on GU as well. And it's funny, oil's going back up just when you thought gas prices was going down, right?
Yeah.
So it just made a higher low, you guys. So calm down. But I'm pretty much locked in on GU as well. USD CAD is pretty interesting to me. I don't trade it often, but I do see that sale happening. I'm just wondering if the highs, like even on the 1 hour, the highs, they're just, I'm not going to conflict because I know a sale is coming. I wonder if it's going to continue. I would like to get a entry opportunity in. I wish I would have got in when you sent the setup because I could be like break even already. But, if I can get like some sort of a retracement on USD CAD, I'd definitely be interested in that. I mean, that and pretty much Nas, bro. GU, Nas, and that's about it for me. I'm gonna keep it pretty chill. I told myself I'm gonna, cut back on some pairs as well because, typically I'm trading, I'm just going through like 20, 30 different pairs just to see if I see anything on any of them. But I've been cutting back recently just to lower my risk exposure, so I can't take, numerous losses in a day. I can just, pretty much keep it to a couple pairs. So, I'm all locked in on GU and NAS100 as well.
Nice,
So
nice. Let's get it. Let's get it. I mean, if we don't got anything else, then family, I do appreciate y'all for jumping on with us. We will be doing these consistent lives. I mean, literally every single week moving forward. The only thing that's gonna change is obviously the time. I think this week I'm not sure. Are we still gonna be doing live New York session on the stream, or is we gonna do the recap on YouTube? What do you think, Skags? Oh, okay. All right. So I think we're still gonna be doing the live streams on YouTube, guys, Monday through Friday. So definitely be aware from that. Make sure to be subscribed and make sure to hit the post notification bell so that you are updated for whenever we do decide to actually go live. Because hopefully you guys are able to see the type of value that we're going to be providing you guys here moving forward. We are very experienced traders, guys, and we're not just going to teach y'all how to do trend lines, right? We're not just going to teach y'all basic supply and demand, right? No, we're going to go more deeper with y'all. We're going to go more in depth with y'all. We're going to give you guys real data, real analysis, using fundamentals, using sentiment, using technicals, right? Various strategies to give you guys the most knowledge, the most information possible, so you guys are prepared to absolutely dominate these markets overall, family. But without further ado, right, we do love you guys. We appreciate y'all. Just stay up in the chats, in the communities. Make sure to be in a part of the Telegram if you guys are not part of the Profit Side Telegram. And we'll be back here tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, same time. Well, tomorrow we'll be on here, guys, early morning to provide you guys with more value. All right. But in between time, love you guys. Appreciate y'all. And we'll see you guys later. Let's get it, y'all. Have a great rest of your